What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to show you the 4 things you want to do to prepare to dive your Model C underwater drone. So if you left your battery inside of the submarine, that's okay. Just remove the dome, set that O-ring aside, and then you're going to want to actually take the battery out of the vehicle. To do that, you're going to want to grab this T-plug and just slide the two plugs apart. Then roll the whole internal structure forward and just work the battery out of the battery compartment. This is going to take some finessing, but just be patient, it'll come out. And there we go. And once the battery is out of the ROV, just go ahead and charge it. If you're not sure how to charge it, just check out the other video we did on charging your ROV batteries. So now that your battery is charged, we're going to put it back inside of the ROV. So while you're doing this, be mindful not to touch the circuit boards too much. You don't want to get too much grime or grease from your fingers on them. It probably won't hurt very much, but I just like to be safe and not touch it if I don't have to. But you're going to want to turn the whole internal assembly forward so you have that opening to the battery compartment exposed. Then just wiggle that battery back into place in the compartment. Friction should more or less hold it in place. And finally, just plug in that T-plug, and you're done worrying about the battery. So this part's pretty straightforward. You're going to need a desiccant packet that came with your Model C kit. And it's kind of like with the battery step. Just take the whole internal structure and just roll it forward. That way you'll have some room between the back of the internal assembly and the rear dome to place that desiccant packet. I like to put it out of sight, kind of at the very bottom part of the dome, and that way it stays out of sight so you don't have to look at it, but it'll also make sure your forward dome doesn't fog up while you're trying to dive. To seal the sphere, tilt the ROV backwards just enough so that the rim on the rear dome is level. Then place your O-ring on the rim and make sure it's contacting the ring all around its circumference. Then thread the forward dome onto those 4 machine screws that hold the rear dome onto the ROV's body. So to actually form a seal, we're going to start by placing our fingers on the rear dome and your thumb on the forward dome and just kind of squeeze, just gently but firmly squeeze the 2 domes together so that the O-ring gets held in place. Next, grab some 632 machine nuts and thread one onto each of the 4 machine screws that are poking through the forward dome. And keep threading until each one is about hand tight. Okay, this is a good time to look really closely at what we're doing. You see that bead starting to form there, right where the O-ring is pressed up against the acrylic? You want one of those to form between the machine screws on both sides of the dome. So there should be one here, and if it's not, feel free to tighten up that one, any or both of those nuts until you do see it. So now that you've double checked that there is a bead forming in between the nuts that are in place, it's time to screw on the rest of the machine screws. I like to thread on those machine screws and trace out a bit of a star pattern. It's kind of like what you're supposed to do when you're putting on bolts to replace a tire on your car. And as you're doing this, just tighten enough so that you see that the bead is starting to follow along with the screws you're putting in. Once you've tightened up all those machine screws, now it's time to just give the whole dome one final check and make sure that that bead on the O-ring follows the whole circumference of that ring. So as long as the bead surrounds all of the electronics, it'll tell you that there's going to be a really reliable seal that won't let any water into the sphere. The last thing you want to do to get ready for a dive is to charge the battery inside of your Wi-Fi station. So you want to pop out the hatch on your Wi-Fi station and take out that little power block. Next, grab a micro USB plug and plug it into the micro USB port on your power block. It should begin charging automatically. As it charges, one of the LEDs on your power block should blink continuously. Once it's finished charging, all three LEDs will be solid. Then all you have to do is unplug that power block, put it back in the Wi-Fi station, and seal that thing up, and you're good to go. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. Thanks.